Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this video. We are going to do a quick diagnosis and fix of the ignition switch. If you guys, actually it's going to be a diagnosis of the ignition switch. If you guys don't know already, 90% of car repairs is pretty much trying to figure out what the issue is, and a no crank, no start with the ignition switch is one of the more difficult things to figure out as far as the starting system is concerned. But so basically, the ignition switch is one of the most important electronic components of your car or truck, because it actually is the starting point of getting your vehicle to start. Normally it's located in the steering column just behind the ignition lock cylinder, which is where you put your key to crank the vehicle. So both these modules, both these things, the cylinder and the switch, work together to start the car. And that nowadays many cars are switching to keyless ignitions, but there's still a bunch of older vehicles with crank and physical keys. So that switch itself has, the ignition switch itself has several positions that turn on different systems when you turn the key. Electrical accessories activate in the first position, power on the fuel ignition on the second, and then the engine cranks on the third. It controls almost all the aspects of your vehicle, so it's absolutely integral to the workings of your car. And essentially, the ignition switch is used every time the vehicle is powered on and started. Like a lot of things, it does get worn out. And let's go through the symptoms of what would happen if you guys have a bad ignition switch. And first thing is, it's possible that your car can stall while it's driving. Normally, if it stalls while it's driving, you guys could normally just turn it back on, as opposed to having a bad alternator cause that issue. And this stalling while driving is essentially one of the first signs that your ignition switch has issues. So basically, what happens is, if in this situation, when in this situation this happens, the ignition switch essentially fails when the engine is on. What happens in this case is that it cuts off power to the ignition and fuel systems, which will cause the engine to stall. And sometimes you could start the car with this with a bad ignition switch that does which puts your car into this situation. Sometimes it won't. It kind of really depends on, where it actually fails. So the second thing that could happen is your car could start and then it stalls out. So if the switch fails on the on position, the one meant to power the fuel and ignition systems, it could result in your car stalling. All right, it could start up and then immediately stalls, and the ignition switch will momentarily provide power to the fuel pump and ignition system when it is in the crank position, which would allow the car to start. However, if it fails on the on position, it will cut off power to the fuel and ignition system as soon as the key is moved back to the on position. So in this case, you might be able to crank, but it won't run. Also, another symptom you can look out for is if the engine doesn't actually start. If the engine doesn't start, essentially what happens is, if it's the cause of ignition switch, what happens is the ignition switch sends power to the starter motor, engine controls, and ignition systems. These systems may receive the power that could get it to start, but Um, but uh, but but these systems, the starter motor, engine controls, and ignition systems, might not receive enough power to start it if the ignition switch isn't working properly. And this could actually be one of the symptoms of a bad ignition switch, but other things that could cause this would be a battery issue. And you can figure this out. If you jump the car and it starts up, then it's probably not the ignition switch that's the problem. So the fourth thing you might want to look for with a bad ignition switch, and this is probably one of the telltale signs of a bad ignition switch, is accessories in your vehicle won't power up. So when you insert the key to the ACC position, it should power up the interior lights, the dash lights, and other electrical components. Then the ACC position is actually the position before the crank position. It's that position where all the lights on your dash are on. And if you put your key in the ignition and then you turn it and none of those things come on, it could be an issue with the ignition switch or the lock cylinder. Just keep in mind that this could also be caused by a bad fuse, bad wiring, or other electrical issues, as a lot of these other symptoms could be caused by other issues. But if you guys have, obviously you guys want to troubleshoot all the possible causes of this. If you guys also have issues with removing the key, that could also be caused by the ignition switch. If the key gets stuck turning on the car, removing the key, it might be a sign of an ignition switch that's worn out. It could be the case that the key isn't connecting inside the switch properly. And in this case, not strangely, but in this case, it actually could cause the engine to keep on running even though you've removed the key. Essentially, all these symptoms could be caused by other issues, but you guys would have to troubleshoot it with whether you guys have a check engine light, whether the battery is good, whether the alternator is good. Obviously, it's pretty much deductive as far as just trying to single out the main cause of your issues. And I just want to put that out there just so you guys can keep that in mind as far as troubleshooting is concerned. It's not really the easiest thing to troubleshoot an ignition switch, because I don't think there's an OBD2 code for the ignition switch cylinder if it's going bad. But if you guys take all these into account with the other possible issues that could cause it, and you guys eliminate all the other possible issues that could cause it, you guys could pretty much do a pretty good deduction of whether it's the ignition switch or not, particularly when you guys eliminate the battery being the issue, when you guys eliminate the alternating being the issue, when you guys eliminate fuses being the issue, when you guys eliminate the ground wire being the issue, when you guys eliminate all the sensors which have a connection to the OBD2 and the check engine light. You guys could eliminate all these things, and if you guys eliminate all these things, and in one of these cases or multiple of these symptoms keep occurring, then there's a good chance that your ignition switch is the issue. But in any case, hope that this has helped you guys out with your with trying to figure out what your car issues are. You guys have any of your own personal experiences with this, definitely leave a comment in the comment section. Please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, all that good stuff. Appreciate your time, guys. Take care.